Morning guys, I'm going to dem to you a bread dish called Khachapuri. It's a Georgian cheese bread dish basically. It's like a super fancy pizza. So those people that love pizza generally like Khachapuri. The good thing about Khachapuri is it demonstrates skill because you have to fold and shape it in a different way to what you would a pizza. So the good thing about it is usually when making a pizza you have to use strong bread flour for it. This you don't, you can just use normal plain flour. Okay, so there is 200 grams of plain flour in there. I'm going to add in a teaspoon of yeast. So yeast is our biological raising agent, and we're going to add a teaspoon of that in because that's going to help it to rise. Okay, we don't want it to rise too much, but we need it to rise enough and CO2 to produce and to ferment. I'm just going to get some scissors and pop this open. Right, 1 teaspoon, that's a small teaspoon of yeast is going in, okay? That's about 6 grams in total, and I'm going to mix that through. Now, with my Khachapuri, I'm going to flavour the actual bread, but you don't need to, I'm just choosing to do so, okay? So I'm just going to add some garlic granules into mine. Yours could be fresh garlic, it could be chilli flakes, it could be oregano, thyme, any other type of herb that you want. But I'm just going to flavour mine with a bit of garlic granules because I love garlic bread, okay? So that's the way that we would flavour it in whatever way you want. Then, to create the actual base, we're going to add in water and milk. It's an enriched dough, so we're adding milk into it to make it enriched, and that means just adds extra flavour to it. Traditionally, you would add a butter in, but we're doing milk in this Georgian bread. There's 50 mils of milk and 100 mils of warm water. It must be warm water or the fermentation won't take place from the yeast that is added. So as we know, for our yeast to ferment, we need warmth, time, moisture and food. So the only thing I'm missing is my food, and that is going to be a tiny bit of sugar that I've already added into the flour, okay? So I've added half a teaspoon of sugar already in there, okay? And that's going to go in, and I'm just going to mix that through till I get a dough now, okay? You can use a wooden spoon, you can use a mixing bowl, you can use a fork, whatever apparatus you've got to do this, okay? You're just gonna give it a good mix. It's quite sticky. We're gonna need to knead it, and then we're gonna need to leave it to rest and to prove, okay? As we know, bread needs time, so you're gonna leave it for about 20 minutes once we've kneaded it. Now it's a really wet dough, so I'm gonna add a little bit of flour onto the top of the Khachapuri, most of all onto my worktop. I'm using chopping board in this case, okay, and I'm just going to tip it out. I've made sure also that I put a little bit of flour onto my hands so it doesn't stick too much to my hands. And then just give it a good knead. We want to knead and stretch the gluten because we're not using a bread flour, okay, so we want to try and stretch what gluten is in there as much as possible. But once we've kneaded this for 5 minutes, going back in your bowl and put it somewhere warm for about 10 to 20 minutes, okay? If you can leave it for 20 minutes, that's better, but 10 minutes should be sufficient. So my bread has proved for about 15 minutes. It's really soft and mallowy now. It's almost like a pillow. So I'm just going to divide mine into 2 because I only want to show you how to make one. I don't need to show you how to make both. So I'm just going to move that other half out of the way for a minute. And then I've already floured up my worktop. It's super sticky because I've added a little bit of olive oil to it while it was proving, so it's made it even more sticky. So I'm just going to knock it back at this point. That means just to re-knead it, okay? And then I'm going to get it into a circular shape with my hand. So I'm just going to tuck it under, so I've got like all the creases in the bottom of the dough. So the top half of the dough is quite smooth. And then I'm just going to round it off into a ball with my hands. Now over here in my measuring jug, I've got a load of cheese that I've grated, around about 300 grams of cheese, but that's because I wanted it mega cheesy. If you don't want it mega cheesy, you can put less. The cheese quantity ratio is your choice. I've also added in extra things like chopped red onion, cherry tomatoes, so it's really good for adding in any other leftovers that you've got inside your fridge that you can't make a real meal out of. Shove it in. It's got 1 egg in, and it's got in about 40 mils of milk. So it's like a wet mixture that we're going to add inside to the dough in a minute. It's almost like if you're making a quiche, you would do the same thing, okay? So now I'm going to get my rolling pin and I'm going to roll it out into an almost slipper shape. So I'm just going to start to roll it. I'm going to roll it, then I'm going to flip it because I want to make sure that it's not sticking, okay, at any times. So I'm elongating the actual piece of mixture, the actual dough, sorry, not the mixture. So we get what's like a slipper shape. And I'll show you, you know, like a naan bread or a pita bread shape. We want it almost like that. Now, it will spring back because of the gluten that's in it. So I've got this kind of shape. Now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to start to pinch it at one side. I'm going to bring up the sides and I'll pinch it at the other side. So I create a kind of shape where it's together. Now you're going to have to use your hand to push it down. Once you're happy with your shape, get yourself a baking tray. I put a bit of baking parchment on mine. I'm going to transfer it across and then recreate it on there. Okay, nice shape. Now I'm going to glaze this with some milk. I'm pushing down the centre because now I'm going to add in some of my little cheesy mixture into that centre. So we're creating a boat shape out of it. Okay, so I'll move that out of the way. Don't fall. And I'll just slide that a little bit close to you. You see? Okay, it's like a boat shape. And into that, I'm going to now add my cheesy mixture. It won't stay up rigid, okay? As it grows inside the oven, that's when it will start to stay up. So I'm just going to start to add some of my cheesy mixture into the middle. Now, once this has been in the oven for about 10 minutes, I'm going to take it out again and I'm going to crack an egg onto the top of it. Traditionally, a khachapuri has an egg top to it as well. But all I'm going to do now is I'm going to brush the outside edges of my khachapuri, and we see that, okay, with some milk, and then it's going to go in the oven for 10 minutes. I'll show it you once it's been in the oven for 10 minutes. So you can see it starts to golden and at what point you should add your egg. If you're choosing not to add an egg, you'd leave it in the oven for about 15 minutes, okay? So my khachapuri is finished. As you can see, all the cheese is caramelised over the top. See bits of the red tomato. I've just served it with a spinach and cucumber dressed salad with some balsamic. It's got a really crispy bread on it and wonderful finish on the top colour wise. The mixture inside, because of the egg, is coagulated, so you've got this kind of really smooth creamy texture left to your product. So there's the final khachapuri. You'll notice there's no egg on this one. I chose not to put egg on the top. I put some extra cheese on instead, so that's why we've got this colour. Okay, enjoy.